it's Shirley and Sir Winston here. Today's craft is we're going to make a card with a snowman. I'll show you. It's Sir Winston and I. You see the front of it as well. Made one like this yesterday because we were talking. You know, the pandemic's been going on almost a year and we haven't seen a lot of our friends and relatives. So we thought we'd make a snowman card for my daughter Kathleen, who lives out in Vancouver where there really isn't much snow. And then Sir Winston and I were looking at the Lent activity for a day, and we saw that there was one about making a card for someone on your street. And we thought we'd show you how to make the card we did in case you'd like to make one for someone on your street. So Sir Winston's going to sit back here because he was sitting on where we're going to work. And so what are you going to need? Well, you're going to need a thicker piece of paper, maybe construction paper, or if you have cardstock. So I have half a sheet of construction paper here. You're going to need some scrap white paper and maybe some other colors of construction paper like black or maybe red. Crayons or markers, glue of course, scissors, and pencil and an eraser. So we're going to start with the heavier paper, the construction paper, and we're going to fold it in half to make a card, and we'll press really hard down on the fold. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our white piece of paper and we're going to make the face of our snowman, which we're going to make as a big, fat, kind of squished circle. About like that. And so I'll cut it out. There, it's cut out. Now, we've learned from the last time that we did it, because if you see, we put a hat on it and we didn't plan for the amount of space it was going to take up. So if you had an envelope this side, the hat would stick out. So what we're going to do is kind of guess where it would go to leave space for a hat, which we think would be about there. And we're going to draw or make the design for his body. And so actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a rectangle of my paper and I'm going to fold it, place it halfway and do it in such a way that it will kind of fit underneath his head, just to get an idea of the length of it. And I'm going to draw out and I'm going to put arms on it. So I've made a design like this and then I'm going to cut it out. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw the buttons and the scarf. And I'm thinking that my snowman, a bright red scarf would be really nice. And I'm going to take my red marker and I'm going to draw a curved line and fill it in from the top. Make a place where you would tie the knot on your scarf and draw two ends coming down from the scarf. Then I'm going to take my black marker and I'm going to put like buttons coming down the middle. When we were children, we would be using pieces of coal to make buttons. And you can see what I did. And if you want to be really fancy, if you have a thinner black marker, you can take that black marker and go along the outside of your scarf to outline it. Remember to draw around where the knot is. And you would outline it down for the edges of your scarf, and you might even want to draw a little fringe on it. There. Now, if you want to get really fancy, when we were little, we also used some of our mittens to put mittens on your snowman. So I'm just taking a piece of paper, folding it in half, and I'm going to look at how fat the end of his arm is. And I'm going to draw a mitten like that. Then I'm going to cut it out. And the advantage is if you have folded it over, when you cut it out, you'll have two mittens the same size. And I'm thinking, okay, what's a nice bright color that his mittens can be? And I'm thinking, oh, let's make it a nice bright green. So that's coloring the mittens. And when you put out to color the mittens, you want to make sure that you have sort of one going each way. So you've got a thumb pointing a different way. And this is where it's useful when you're coloring to have a piece of scrap paper underneath, so it's easier to color the edges without coloring your table. And so what I'm going to do is take my glue and put a little bit on the edge of my mittens and put my mittens on my snowman. Leave them there to dry for a few minutes. And this time I've learned I've got a damp face cloth so that when I get glue on my fingers, I can wipe them off. So let's draw the design for the face. So I'm taking my orange marker and I'm going to give my snowman a carrot nose. So I'm going to draw kind of a long triangle sideways. And then I'm going to take my black marker and I'm going to make a big smile on my snowman that's made out of black lumps of coal. And I'm going to do the same for his eyes, except when I draw them for his eyes, I'm going to do like a little circle inside the black circle, and when I color it in, I'm going to leave that small circle white. To get really fancy, you can outline your carrot nose. Show you what I do, and you might even decide to take a pink crayon and make it like he has rosy cheeks. Now we're going to get perhaps a little fancy, and we're going to give a top hat to our snowman. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out a rectangle. I'm going to cut out another rectangle. It's not going to be as high, but it's going to be longer to act as a brim for the hat. And I'll put on a little bit of glue on the bottom edge of my hat for the brim. And if you want it to be really fancy, you could add another piece of construction paper or paper that you've colored to be like a ribbon on the top hat. I'm waiting for the glue to dry. I thought we'd do a little something to decorate the front, and I think we're going to do a little like what we did here to have the face of a snowman in the corner. So I took a scrap piece of paper and I'm laying it down on the corner, and I'm drawing out a circle, but only probably about half of what we did. And I'm going to get fancy this time. I'm drawing a piece of a hat, and I'll cut it out so you can see what the silhouette of it looks like, which is probably easier to see than what I have drawn out. So it's going to be like this, and I'm going to put some glue on it, and then we're going to, after it dries, even it up around the edges, because I've cut out so that it's a little longer than where the edges are, and I'm using my fingers to spread out the glue. So I'll be happy to use my wet face cloth to clean them off again before I do something else. So we'll put that on, and then we'll wait for that to dry, and then we'll color it in. But I think my pieces are dry, so it's time to glue them together. So you're going to take the body, and if you remember, we already had folded in half to cut it out. We're going to crease that fold, because what we're going to do when we glue is we're going to match the fold in this to the fold on the card. So let's take out our glue and glue this. And you'll want to spread the glue out. Make sure that you get particularly along the edges so that the edges don't stick out. There, we've spread out our glue. We have it to the edges. Now what we're going to do is we're going to match the folds that we made. And we'll press down then our snowman's body, making sure that we've got the edges pressed down. So you want to make sure that you've got the glue out to the edges. There. Clean off my fingers a bit. Now we're going to fold our snowman's face differently. Instead of folding in, we're going to take them and we're going to fold the other way so that you can see his face, and then we're going to fold in so that you can't see his face each side. So what you're doing is making like a W. And what we're going to do is we're putting glue on the side folds on the wrong side. And remember to glue up to the hat if you have your snowman wearing a hat. Then we're going to take it and you're going to try to line up the center fold, but you're not going to press it so that it's right against the card on the center fold. You're just going to press down on the side folds so that it's still sticking up. So now we're going to wait for that to dry. Well, I think it's finished drying, and while it was drying, I put some snowflakes on it. I don't know if you have something like a hole punch at home. I have one, and I took the back off, and what happens is you get little round dots, which then I put on as snowflakes on this part, and I also drew on the front. I'll tell you that it's a lot easier to color the hat before you glue it on rather than afterwards. And you can take, when it's dry, your card and kind of crease it. And what you'll see when you open it up is the snowman's face sticks out. So there we are. We have another card to drop into a neighbor to do our activity for the days of Lent. So shall we have a little prayer together? If you could bow your heads and repeat after me. Loving God, thank you for the snow to play in. Help us to be kind to others and to your world. Amen. And we'll see you next time at Kids Corner.